everybody, DeathsStalker here, out for a nice ride in September after enjoying a really good and interesting MotoGP race from Aragon. Now, I'm not going to try to make it as long as the one I did on the Misano because there's not as much happening. But needless to say, Marc Marquez won the race. In fact, everyone was saying Marc Marquez was on a different planet from everyone else. On Friday's free practice one, he set a lap that was almost equaling the previous lap record, which for a first practice session is amazing and absolutely dejecting to anybody else who's there. Nobody got close to that lap. Mark even ended up getting the pole. He set a lap in his first run that basically no one could beat. He was running between a second and a second and a half faster than everybody else. So pretty much everyone figured who's going to be second. Well, Maverick Vinales and Fabio both were riding the wheels off the Yamahas, and they managed to get themselves on the front row, and it looked like the Yamahas were going to be in it. Dovi, Andrea Dovizioso, he made a mistake and in qualifying and ended up in 10th place on the start line. So it looked pretty much to everyone that it was going to be Mark, and they figured it was going to either be Fabio or Vinales for second and third. Alex Rins on the Suzuki also had a horrible qualifying, and he was way back, like I believe it was in 13th. So we go to the start of the race, and Mark takes off, and to give you an idea how much better he was than everyone else, before the lap was over, he was a half a second ahead. And he basically got himself about a 4 or 5 second lead and just sort of maintained it for the rest of the race. So for him, he was out there for a beautiful Sunday ride. Now, Maverick was not riding like he normally does, where he rides either really well or rides okay and then starts to have problems and starts drifting back, or doesn't ride well and stays back. He was riding the wheels on his Yamaha like right to the limit for the entire race. He did a spectacular job. Unfortunately, the day it turned out to be a little bit cloudy, and Yamaha had been counting on the hard tires for them to make them competitive. And I guess the temperature was just down a couple degrees, and that's all it meant for them to find themselves spinning their tires, and they actually were burning the tires out. Valentino Rossi said basically after 5 laps he had no more tire. The tire was just basically just burned out. Jack Miller had a great run, great start, but then he was passed by Vinales and decided for a change, instead of trying to fight for the lead and burn his tires out, he's trying to save his tire towards the end of the race. Now, Alex Rins was trying to get up to the front as quickly as possible, and he overcooked it coming into one corner and managed to tag Franco Morbidelli in the back and took him out. Now, surprisingly, Alex didn't crash. He nearly did, but Franco's sitting there in the gravel trap just watching Alex ride away, just sort of like, I know what exactly, he was just sort of sitting there going WTF. I guess this was the first lap. Alex did go and apologize after the race to Franco and to his team for knocking him out. And he ended up getting a long lap penalty, and he had a lot of it. His day was basically a day to forget. Now, Dovi, who was in 10th, was slowly working his way up and using that magnificent Ducati horsepower to just pass people, and he got himself up very reliably up to like 3rd place, and then he just kept pushing and pushing and found himself ahead of Jack Miller, and then ahead of Maverick Vinales. So now we had Dobie, who was in second place, and he quickly realized he was not going to catch Mark. So it was not what you call going to be a big challenge. He was just going to be hanging out there. I've just seen it. This is a hole, just a little one. Okay. He was just knew he was going to be second, so he decided just once he got himself into second, he was planning on staying there. Now, the interesting part was Jack Miller, who normally either does really, really well or burns his tires up and ends up dropping back. He had followed Maverick and Dobie, and when Dobie passed Maverick, he realized what Dobie was doing to maintain his tires, and he was doing the same thing. And in the last couple laps, he realized that Maverick's tires were gone, so he pushed really, really hard and managed to, on the last lap, get Maverick Vinales for third place. Maverick came in, he was just, he was heartbroken because basically he ran second for probably 2/3 of the race before he ended up getting passed. But, he did his best he could with the bike he had. But it was interesting to see that Dobie was second, who was started from 10th, and Jack, I believe, who started 6th or 7th, I think it was, he ended up finishing 3rd. So it was a really good race by Jack, really good effort by Dobie, and of course Mark was in the other planet. Now, the interesting thing about this whole thing was at the press conference at the end, I was really surprised listening to Mark and Jack and Dobie talking about how the Michelin tires work. It was very informative, where they were explaining how hard, medium, soft are not so much how much grip the tires have, but how well the tires last under certain temperature conditions. And they were explaining a lot about the difference between like the soft and the medium and the hard and whatnot that I've never seen people actually discuss. So it was kind of interesting. Now the downside, of course, is that Mark is now 98 points ahead. Pretty much he only needs a handful of points now, and he's going to be tagging his 8th World Championship, which is pretty much a foregone conclusion. I think everyone realized that's going to happen. But now I got 2 weeks until the race in Thailand. And then after that, we got the other 3 flyaways of Japan, Australia, and Malaysia. So I don't know what I'm going to do next weekend. Well, the weather's nice, I'm going for a ride. Anyways, hope you enjoyed it. DeathsStalker, signing off.